Here's what's making headlines. Justin Baldoni has finally addressed the ongoing speculation, and reports claim he has no plans to bring Blake Lively back for a potential sequel to It Ends With Us. When a filmmaker with Justin's reputation appears to draw a firm line, it naturally gets people's attention. The latest claims also suggest he's pointing to what he believes are long-standing issues involving Blake's behavior behind the scenes. According to the rumors, the concerns go beyond simply being difficult to work with on set, with critics arguing it reflects a larger pattern that has followed her throughout Hollywood.
I made It Ends With Us and all these films for a very specific reason, but I also, wanted people to think I was a good director or a good actor, and I wanted my place in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
That's enmeshed with all of it, and I think I've really learned over the course of the last 2 years that it really doesn't matter.
After everything surrounding It Ends With Us became public, Justin Baldoni chose not to comment. His silence reportedly frustrated Blake Lively's team, as there were claims they had been expecting him to make public statements that could be addressed in a planned exclusive podcast interview. Instead of responding, Justin stayed quiet and avoided engaging with the controversy, a move that many observers saw as deliberate. After months of speculation and a legal dispute that left many people confused, reports now claim his team has begun discussing what it was like working with Blake. According to those accounts, the experience was extremely difficult, with allegations that she took creative control of the film and attempted to damage his reputation.
At the other side of the coin, Blake is facing a brutal tell-all from Justin Baldoni. I don't know if I buy this. Now, I believe he's going to tell all in his own way in interviews and stuff, but is he really going to write a book? That's kind of what they're alluding to.
Now here is something that is so interesting about the way he handled this announcement, because it was not some interview where he went off on her, called her names, or did any of the dramatic stuff that you might expect. I mean, it was just a professional statement where he talked to people present at his production company, which owns the rights to the It Starts With Us sequel that Blake Lively will not be involved in, all along with any future installments of this franchise. It Ends With Us was actually a pretty successful movie at the box office, and that the sequel had a lot of built-in audience interest as people wanted to see how the story continued. You have to understand what a huge decision this is to just cut her loose completely, because Justin was giving up on a lot of profit in terms of box office potential in order to not have to work with her again. Which tells you exactly how bad things must have been behind the scenes if he was willing to sacrifice commercial success just to be rid of her.
At the moment, it might look like going backwards, but every time I've done it, it's paid off.
According to the reports, this wasn't a decision made by Justin alone. It was reportedly supported by the entire studio. Supporters of that view argue that the production company wasn't operating on personal feelings, but weighing the situation as a business decision involving investors, partners, and the future of the franchise. If those reports are accurate, choosing not to bring Blake back for a sequel would have been a significant financial risk, especially after the success of the first film. Yet the studio was still said to be willing to move forward without her. Some commentators have interpreted that as a sign that they believed the alleged behind-the-scenes issues outweighed the potential commercial benefits. In the film industry, financial considerations usually play a major role, and studios generally avoid walking away from profitable projects unless they believe continuing could create even greater costs. According to these claims, those concerns included the possibility of ongoing conflict and production challenges. Supporters of the decision argue that starting fresh with a different cast member would be a better long-term option than continuing under circumstances they viewed as potentially disruptive.
With basic respect.
It's no accident that Blake Lively has not booked another acting role. What director is ever going to work with her? Right. What director is going to think she's not going to turn around and do the same thing to me and try to destroy me?
To understand the criticism now being directed at Blake Lively, some commentators point back to the beginning of her career. They argue that the signs were already there when she landed her breakout role on Gossip Girl. According to these claims, Blake quickly developed a reputation for wanting to be treated differently from the rest of the cast and expecting exceptions to the usual rules on set. Critics say that attitude became more noticeable as the years went on. One former background performer, Ross Ilarego, who says she worked on the series throughout its 6-season run, recently shared her own experience. According to her account, Blake rarely interacted with background actors and allegedly preferred that they remained silent and out of the way whenever she was nearby. She also claimed Blake displayed behavior she considered disrespectful on set, saying she would sometimes burp or pass gas openly without apologizing or acknowledging the people around her. Some critics have speculated about where that behavior may have come from, suggesting it could have been influenced by growing up in an acting family. However, that remains opinion rather than established fact. They argue that believing you're entitled to special treatment can eventually affect professional relationships if it goes unchecked. The discussion became even more controversial when people revisited an older interview in which Blake spoke about her early experiences working with her former co-star Penn Badgley. Some interpreted her comments as an admission that she tried to influence how other cast members viewed him before they began working together. According to those interpretations, she was unhappy about his casting and discussed those feelings with others on set. Critics have described that behavior as inappropriate workplace conduct, while supporters argue her remarks have been taken out of context. Regardless, the interview continues to be referenced whenever debates about her on-set reputation resurface.
And she got away with it.
None of her co-stars follow her on Instagram. They're not friends. We know that Leighton Meester and Blake Lively hated each other. And she's posting this photo of the two of them pretending that they're BFFs. It's so ridiculous.
The criticism doesn't stop there. Some online commentators have also pointed to Blake Lively's reported relationship with her Gossip Girl co-star Leighton Meester. According to those claims, the two were never particularly close behind the scenes. Leighton has spoken publicly about having a difficult childhood, including being born while her mother was serving a prison sentence. Critics often reference a promotional panel where Blake and Leighton appeared together. They claim that while discussing different acting roles, Blake made a remark that some people interpreted as a reference to Leighton's early life. According to those accounts, the comment created an uncomfortable atmosphere and has continued to be debated by fans, with some viewing it as an insensitive joke while others argue it has been taken out of context. Another story that frequently resurfaces involves actor Armie Hammer, who briefly appeared on Gossip Girl as one of Blake's on-screen love interests. Some reports claim he left the series earlier than expected after having a difficult experience on set, although the reasons behind his departure have been widely debated. In later interviews, Armie was asked about leaving the show and spoke about dealing with someone he described as acting like a diva, but he did not identify anyone by name. As a result, many people have speculated about who he was referring to, though no direct confirmation has ever been provided. Because of stories like these, discussions about Blake's professional reputation have continued for years. While critics believe these incidents point to a larger pattern of behavior, others argue that many of the claims rely on personal opinions, rumors, or interpretations rather than verified facts. Even so, the stories continue to resurface whenever new controversies involving her make headlines.
Everywhere she went.
What Blake Lively's known for now is being a bully, which is people don't like. They really don't like that.
What if one of Hollywood's biggest career setbacks wasn't just bad luck, but the result of a series of controversies? That's the claim critics continue to make about Blake Lively, pointing to several incidents they believe damaged her reputation both on and off set. One of the biggest stories centers on side effects. Blake was originally attached to star alongside Jude Law and Channing Tatum in Steven Soderbergh's psychological thriller. However, she ultimately left the project, and Rooney Mara took over the lead role. After the recasting, the film became both a commercial and critical success, earning more than $66 million worldwide. Critics argue the change strengthened the movie, while supporters of Blake note that casting decisions can happen for many reasons and aren't always a reflection of an actor's ability. Even so, reports claim her team worked hard to keep the recasting from becoming a major public story. After that period, Blake shifted part of her focus to entrepreneurship by launching Preserve, a lifestyle and e-commerce brand built around handcrafted products. While it was promoted as a personal passion project, former employees later described a very different experience. According to multiple accounts, the company was run from a small New York apartment under the leadership of Blake's brother, Eric. Staff members allegedly worked exhausting hours, lacked proper office equipment, and were forced to work in uncomfortable conditions. Some also claimed Ryan Reynolds played a management role, describing an intimidating workplace where employees felt afraid to speak openly and struggled with delayed pay. Former workers further alleged that when complaints about workplace conditions began growing, Financial settlements and non-disclosure agreements were used to resolve disputes. These allegations have circulated widely online, though the specific claims remain contested. The controversy surrounding Preserve didn't end there. Blake also faced heavy backlash over an article published on the company's website titled, "The Allure of Antebellum." The piece was criticized for portraying the pre-Civil War American South in a romanticized way, while failing to acknowledge the brutality of slavery. The backlash was swift, with many accusing the brand of being insensitive to a painful period of history. Years later, another former industry professional added to the criticism. Barbara Seaman, who worked as an assistant director on A Simple Favor, publicly alleged that Blake created a difficult work environment. According to her account, she was frequently singled out, emotionally worn down, and eventually left assistant directing altogether because of the experience. She claimed she often went home in tears after struggling to meet expectations she felt were impossible to satisfy. Critics argue these stories reveal a recurring pattern stretching across different projects and workplaces, while others caution that many of the allegations rely on personal accounts and remain disputed. Regardless of where the truth ultimately lies, the repeated claims have continued to fuel debate about Blake Lively's professional reputation. In Hollywood, success can build a career, but the stories people remember often shape it just as much.